Good afternoon, everyone. I want to call to order this meeting of the Technical Transportation Committee of Tippecanoe County. The first item of business we have is the approval of minutes from August 16, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Just a moment of discussion. Is there any, the motion is as approved. If there's no discussion, I'll proceed with a vote. All in favor of approving the motions as written, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have approval of the minutes. Next item is access permits. Two items there, NDOT report and the discussion of Veterans Memorial Parkway. So NDOT first.
So as far as what's changed since the last report, I've asked the permit manager to highlight in some way so we can tell what's new, and so that's the red on the right-hand side. And if you look mostly where we are in our active permits is we are in that going back and forth stage on plan review. So when they say revision sent, we've reviewed and sent comments, and then things have come back, and maybe we're sending back for more review. So we're going back and forth in that plan review process on several of these. And that normally means we're very close to having a permit issued.
All right. Thank you. If there are no questions on that report, we will move forward then to the next item is Veterans Memorial Parkway. Doug, you have the floor.
Make sure the red light's on. Before I forget, to begin with, I would like to wish everybody a happy National Pepperoni Pizza Day. So if you like pepperoni pizza, today is to celebrate. Today is to celebrate. So with this, I'd like to discuss with the committee access along Veterans Memorial Parkway. As you can see in the staff report, it's fairly extensive and there's a lot of information within it, so I hope you've had a chance to look through it. But of recent, there has been a number of inquiries in developing portions along Veterans Memorial Parkway, and specifically we're looking at the section between Concord Road and the railroad bridge near State Road 38. So the other sections are not included in this, just this one specific section. In addition to all those inquiries, the City of Lafayette is in the process of widening the next section of Veterans Memorial Parkway, and that is east of US 52 to the railroad bridge, going from the 2 lanes that it is now to 4 travel lanes. So it's been identified many years ago that eventually this whole entire corridor will be 4 travel lanes. Kind of give you an interesting bit of history on this. The second paragraph, the information that was provided in that was actually presented by the executive director at that time during the public hearing for phase 3 of the Veterans Memorial Improvement Project. And in that he had a lot of information. And basically, not only starting with his information, but with the 78 transportation plan and then following plans that were updated after that, the whole thought in developing the area road improvements was to develop a ring and spoke system so that certain roads would act as corridors to move traffic rather than to let traffic or businesses access the road. because we recognized based on older roads such as what was State Road 26 or South Street and Sagamore Parkway that if you have a lot of development along the roads, basically you have a competition between vehicles wanting to go through and vehicles that were wanting to actually go to those businesses along the road. So when this was basically in the development of the 5 phases, specifically 1 and 4, it was looked at in terms of over the 4 projects that when the additional land was purchased, the rights to access the road were also purchased except for at certain key locations. So they did leave a limited number of points that developers or the property owners could access the road, and those are still there. So with all of this going on in terms of the increased interest and then the construction, we all, in various different discussion, decided that maybe it would be time to actually revisit this, just have a discussion, and then come up with, again, a collaborative position in terms of we agree with the original concept of this road that is meant to move traffic more so than provide access, and then provide an opportunity that if there is a desire to add additional access or move access, how to go about that. So within the staff report, there's a lot of information. I'll just briefly and then touch upon the current access. If you can go to the map. We had to do a lot of research here. We do have a copy of the construction plans in our office. We also have a copy, which I did bring today, of the right-of-way plans that were actually recorded. Thanks to Mike, we do have the county highway plans. And then we also have the actual deed for Veterans Memorial that when that land was purchased, it created that, what you want to call lot or whatnot for the road. So we have all of that information. From that, what we did find was that Parcel A does have an access point to Veterans Memorial Parkway. Project B does not. Project C does. We're still not sure about the parcels D, E, and F because there are driveways shown, but in the plans we have, or even in the documents we have, it shows no access. So we're going to have to do additional deed research on those parcels. Parcel G does have access, and then parcel H does not. Parcel I, which is actually incorrectly identified, I missed that. It was the one over to the right. It does have access point. Parcel J has 1, parcel K has 2, and parcel L has 1. So as you can see, pretty much all of the parcels along here, except for a couple, which we need to do more research, has some sort of access. So with that, on US 52, of course, the plans show that there is an ability to access US 52, except we did discover one thing. In the deed for Veterans Memorial, it does show limited access along 52. We did go through it again, and it was confirmed, so we need to do a little bit more digging on that because none of our plans do show it as limited access. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. So that we will need to look at further in depth. Currently, right now, we have no either major or minor subdivisions that are being requested or processed. In addition, plan developments or parcelizations. Also like to throw in some additional data, a future road that we talked about not too long ago that basically parallels Concord Road. That is basically to the western part of this. And then also we threw in the staff report at the very end, the process that was put together by the Federal Highway Administration and NDOT regarding limited access guidance. We also have some traffic count data, and those traffic count volumes are mostly recorded by NDOT. Not really a big surprise. And then also put in there the position of the comprehensive plan, specifically the transportation plans over the long years. So in essence, what we would like to do in coming up with a collaborative agreement or position is that we made suggestions here. And the suggestion is that at this point, basically, we agree that what was done in terms of access was done in the best interest of the community, so that no new additional driveways, whether they include a right-in only, a right-in, right-out only, and full access, be permitted. Now, if we want to go in further depth and come up with a position regarding how access, for example, specifically if they come across each other, we want to do that discussion and come up with a position on that, that's fine as well. But at this point, APC, we decided that at this point, just having that statement that no new additional driveways should be allowed, that right now that you do have access, which what was remaining. And then we also are proposing this as well, that second point, is that if a desire does come up, that, the guidance that there is from FHWA and NDOT, that since this is a local road, APC staff will then review this and follow that process. Of course, we'll need NDOT's help with this as well, so we're hoping to work together in going through the entire process. And once we're done with that, then we would bring that information to this committee for a decision. So basically, we are recommending or affirming that, back when these plans were developed, that overall limited access was purchased. There were a few access points left, and those access points are still good, that we should keep the remaining portion of it as limited access. And then if there is desire to change, modify, or whatnot, we would follow the procedures. So basically, that's what we're recommending. Well, that's a lot and may be confusing. So questions, comments?
I don't have questions. I just want to thank you for putting this all together. And I know as the city of Lafayette, we've had a lot of interest in particularly that intersection you were mentioning. Mm-hmm. And we did approach you and ask you to kind of chime in on this because there's going to be a lot of asks. So, So thank you.
Well, thank you. And that's the right reason we're here today, is to involve the entire committee, because you're well diverse in different occupations.
So as the NDOT person sitting up here, as far as US 52 is concerned, I'm not sure that we're aware of this being limited access right away. I think we're under the impression it isn't, so I made the note that we need to dig deeper too, to be sure, because if it's not limited access on the 52 corridor, I can say that NDOT will not allow any new full access points, but right-in, right-outs are possibilities at this point in time.
Yeah. I can email you the deed that we pulled that has that specific information if you'd like.
That would be nice. We have a layer that tells us where limited access is and isn't, and quite frankly, it's not always correct. So we need to double check that, because we are in the process of allowing a right-in, right-out on one of the four corners.
Okay.
Is there any further comment or discussion? So you want to make a motion for a vote on this for now, or how do you want to do that?
I'd like to make that motion, but I think there probably might be some
persons in attendance that might want to speak to this.
Okay. So invite anyone in attendance if you have any comments, points to make.
I don't know whether I have any comment to make today. I do represent one landowner at that corner, and so we're exploring what are the constraints in terms of the access and development.
Yeah.
My name is Bob Bauman, and I represent the landowner at the corner of Veterans Memorial and 52. We're exploring what are the constraints in terms of development of those properties in that vicinity. They are of considerable value, I think, both on a private basis and also for the development of the community and providing requisite commercial services which support the overall community's economic activity.
Thank you. So,
Do we have any other comments that anyone wants to make before we put forth a motion? Just want to make sure we don't squash anyone who wants to speak.
so should we consider the recommendation here as you having made that motion?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Just to clarify, the motion would be the recommendation as in the minutes or agenda?
In the agenda, yes.
Yes, perfect. And I would second that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor of the motion as stated, as written in the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So we can move forward now with the next item is the APC progress report, beginning with the MPO update. I believe Aria will come forward first.
Okay, so my item is high injury networks. And just for some background on this, the SS4A Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that our office is working on requires an action plan to apply for the grant funding. And as part of that action plan, we need in the action plan what's called a high injury network, HIN. It's basically a way of looking at our road network to see what corridors have lots of injuries and fatality crashes as opposed to intersections. So a lot of, well, every, I think, action plan that I've seen has had one of these, and we've looked at a lot of methodologies, especially like in California. I think Texas had some. I looked at more than 20 different methodologies to come up with a methodology that'd be appropriate for our area. And hopefully it's up on the screen, yes. So you can see kind of my first draft here of what I came up with for our area. It's basically a weighted average of crashes per mile on these streets. And that kind of avoids getting the intersections specifically, just like, you know, all the high injury and high fatality intersections. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the only thing I'll mention is this is not a final version. I'm still tweaking the statistical method I'm using. As our area, we are not like California. We don't have a huge population and huge roads and things. So what's appropriate for those areas, I don't think is quite right for us. So I'm still finding something that will be functional and more valuable for us to use in our planning efforts. So any questions about the high injury network?
My question is are the ones that are highlighted in red, is that because of crash rates or crash numbers that we have now?
Yes.
Or, okay,
so that's
so,
the current last 5 years. I
so,
think,
so
in
we're not
2022.
defining roads that we want to study further. These are roads that actually currently have crashes on them that we're highlighting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just a way of kind of looking at our network in a different way to see what whole corridors we might want to change systematically or systemically.
Did it take a certain number of crashes to make this list?
I mean, it's 5 years of fatalities and injuries. The total number of those, I think it was more than 800 total went into this. So kind of a small number compared to, the thousands and thousands they had in the California ones. So that's part of the reason why it's a little bit tricky to get a good statistical analysis. Our Holden Road network, 800 crashes is not that much. So, yeah. Any other questions?
This isn't a question, but I just wanted to mention that this is something that's kind of like a living thing, so it will be updated periodically. Hopefully, we will start to see some of these disappear as we get some projects in place. But it's
Yes.
definitely something we're going to be looking at continually over the upcoming years.
That's a great point. Yeah, the roads you see here, these are kind of the long tail of corridors in the county. I looked anything above the one standard deviation, basically, is what these are. So as we get, less of a long tail, they'll become hopefully less relevant and all the road network will be safer. So, yeah.
So we're likely to see, like Sagamore Parkway through Lafayette is highlighted right now, but it's been reconstructed, and so some of these may fall off
Yes, yeah.
over time.
I'm not sure what the future methodology will be, if it's like a rolling 5 years or just like a 5-year window or how we'll do that. But as time goes on, yes, it should phase out the old data. So it would be way too much time and effort to try and look road by road and figure out what years of data to use. So
I'm curious, the on and off ramps of the interstate there, are the accidents on the ramps, or is that interstate data that's showing at the access point to the local road?
yeah,
How
it's
is
a great
that?
question. So the methodology that most places I looked at used was to not include state roads, state-controlled roads in the networks, because our local jurisdiction, we can't make any changes to the highways. But we do have our local roads intersecting with those. So, like at those off ramps, like at 43 and 65, there's a ton of crashes out there by Battleground, and that is a place where potentially we could make changes. So those are included in the study. Yeah.
Is injuries defined as complaint of pain on up, or?
Yep, so anything in your crash reports that you list as an injury crash is included. I think there's a field for that, so.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Appear to be no more, so thank you.
Thank you.
So our next item under the MPO update is federal funds. Doug? And actually, you have the floor for this remaining section.
Okay, I didn't bring my dogs and ponies, so I'm sorry. I'll try to get through all this as quick as possible. But anyway, the first two I'm probably going to be combining, talking about both. So regarding federal funding, this is the monthly report that we generally put together to show the status of obligating, and now we're actually into 2024, believe it or not. So it's kind of like, already? Yes, we are, because we are following the state year. So since we are fairly early in this process, we really don't see any activity from NDOT. Nothing has been actually obligated in terms of our local federal funds. We do have some side notes there looking down the tables, is that the repayment of funds and this is back to the NERC MPO, and there's two of them, one for STBG funds and the other for HIP funds, are in the process of repaying those funds back to that MPO. The reason why is because, for example, the SHIP or safety funds, we had to borrow additional funds from that MPO to pay for the construction of the River Road, County Road 500 North project. So we're giving the funds back that we borrowed. For the other project, the STBG funds, and that is a payment back to them for another one of our local federal aid projects. So we have started that process. And then also at the very bottom, the additional 2023 funds, the $141,243. I'll tell you, this has been a rough issue. We have been able to obligate a portion of it, and Jeremy was able to use a part of it for additional preliminary engineering for the South 9th Street project. But I'll tell you, NDOT, and I'm not saying district, central office, I want to make that clear, we've been running up against a lot of, I don't know, new rules? Just rules. We'll just put it that way. Because the initial thought was to use the balance for the Yeager Road project. But when we went to request that, we were told, no, we can't do that anymore. In the past, when a project, specifically an LPA project, went to construction and we did not have the 80% federal funding for it and actually used a smaller amount, we were allowed to add additional federal funds after construction. Well, we went to request that and said, nope, we can't do that anymore. And it's like, okay, thanks. Yes?
And didn't we add some funds to this project you're talking about already once?
Not this project,
Okay.
but in previous projects. For example, Klondike Road, we added federal funds twice. For the River Road 500 North project, we added additional federal funds. And even if you remember way back, the Happy Hollow project, we did add additional funds for that. So, and providing some of those examples, it was like, no, can't do it. So, we're going to still explore that and I guess go up the chain. But anyway, so the next thought was, hey, we could flex it over, because we had a discussion earlier, over to transit for paratransit vehicles. We went through that process, and then when we went to ask for that transfer, nope. Federal Transit Administration said, we can't do that after July 31st. And it's like, okay, thanks for telling us. We did learn that Federal Transit Administration did let the central office know that on the 31st, that was the deadline. They could not flex any more funds over. So kind of an interesting backstory on that. Then we went and tried to use these funds for change orders, and that was unsuccessful. And then we tried to actually use it for supplemental for another project, specifically Soldiers Home Road, and that seems to not be working out. So right now I'm playing phone tag with somebody higher up in central office to see what we can do. So I'm still...
Could you just ask them what we could...
Well...
Can you just put it in your bank account?
Can Jeremy just spend it?
Well, okay, I did throw this out there, believe it or not. Since we've been asking for the additional sidewalks on Teal, which are moving forward, and thankfully I said, could we use that and give it to NDOT for that project? And I was told, well, you might want to put it to a local project. So I have explored that, Bill. So I'm trying. So I feel like I'm a soap opera right now. But anyway, I'm really trying to obligate, even though it's like $61,000 of funds, which doesn't seem like much, I am trying to do that. So.
We appreciate it.
So, thank you. So anyway, for the 2024 funds, we are moving forward. We are, the big chunk is going to be coming out for Morehouse Road project. Some other interesting news is that, a few months ago, we presented to this committee that we will be receiving additional federal funds through the federal highway redistribution process, and we haven't got any specific information, but we did learn that federal highway gave an additional $303,967,075 to NDOT for these redistribution funds, which is almost the amount they requested of $310 million. So if they go with the information provided us, we should get a little over $1.4 million to obligate. Now, we haven't received information as to that dollar amount, what it specifically is, and all of the strings that will be attached to it. But once we do, we will send that information out. We'll probably start with the cities, the county, city bus, and then the towns. It's like, this is the information, so we're going to start the discussion process and looking how to address and allocate these federal funds. So basically, like going through a mini TIP process. So we'll do it, of course, all in the public, and we'll start with this committee and then have the policy board adopt it, of course. So that's coming up. So we are getting, the good news is an additional amount of money. So that's basically in a nutshell of the federal funding. Going on to the new STIP, or State Transportation Improvement Program, and TIP modification process. Well, this doesn't affect our process here locally, but NDOT Central Office and the Federal Highway Administration are telling us that once we adopt it, we need to do a different process in sending it to NDOT for their moving it to the STIP adoption. And even though they say we need to use that process, it's not nearly finished or flushed out, so there are some issues with that. So it doesn't affect us locally. We'll still submit it and it'll still get approved, but we're now going to follow a new process. So when we get finished, the policy board, we'll have to submit the paperwork differently to different people and by certain times. So it's just an internal process we'll have to follow that's different. But it won't affect our process with presenting it to the Technical Transportation Committee or the policy board. It's just we wanted to let this committee know that we're going to be having to do this a little differently. So, and then speaking of the STIP and TIP, we did receive word that the 2024 to 2028 STIP was approved by the Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration on September 1st. So the other good news is that our 2024 to 2028 TIP was also approved. So that document now that when we just worked on and approved earlier this year is the official document. We are no longer using the 22 TIP. So good news is that now we're just amending and looking at one rather than both. So good news to pass along. Some additional news. Every other month there is a meeting from the local community, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and that's a group of people, represents different agencies like TEMA, the different police departments, fire departments, city bus is even on there. We're on there because they want to know the status of road projects. So when I ask you for updated information, it goes to that committee. So that's why I asked that. Well, back in 2012, there was a hazardous materials commodity flow done. And earlier this year, there was desire from TEMA specifically to have that updated. So working through the process, we are now going to have that done. And the previous one in 2012, we actually used special federal funds for that. This time we're actually using 80% of our planning funds, or APC planning funds, will be paying for this. So the contract was signed and it is moving forward. And I have the paperwork here if you'd like more information on it. I have it here, so hopefully later this year we'll have some additional information to show and present to you about the hazardous materials that are moving through Tippecanoe County, something of rather interest. The next thing is the annual listing of projects. I've only made 2 paper copies of this. One was by request and one was because I go to presentations like this and show people. You can see how thick it is. Basically, this is a document that tells where our federal funds are being obligated or spent. And not only that, we actually go a step further and include all of the local projects that are just funded with local funds. So I read all of the Board of Public Works minutes, I read the County Commissioner minutes, and all of those projects and information are included in this report. So it gives a good comprehensive plan, a picture of where gas or where our tax money is going to project-wise. So we have individual project information sheets, and then we also have a follow-up on projects were completed. Same format as last year, but we officially completed it. It is required by federal statute that it be done the end of September, and it is done. It is available on our website, and if you'd like to quick glance of paper, I have one here. So I do have one additional piece of information I'd like to share, and if you remember earlier this year, we discussed the adjusted urban area boundary. I know it's been a while. Anyway, it's been sitting in central office for their review. We finally did hear back from them. There were no comments. They instructed us to go ahead and proceed forward with that and the adoption. We did present it last week to the policy board. They did approve it. We sent that information to them last Friday, so our task at this point is done. So that is now been officially approved locally. So now we'll wait and hear what NDOT has to say with that. The last piece of information I have is the 18-month letting list. I can just briefly go over that. Project 1 is a very interesting project. It's on a September 27th bid letting. It's the installation of charging devices for electric vehicles on a portion of US 52-231. Very interesting project. It was on previous month's letting, but the bid was over the engineer's estimate. Projects that are coming up next month in October, we have a repair or replace joints on a bridge on State Road 38. Looking in December, a couple key projects. One, Morehouse Road, first phase. And then also, if you use State Road 26 West, well, construction's coming. They're going to do some work on the Goose Creek Bridge. In January, got I-65 concrete pavement restoration at the State Road 38 interchange. Looking a little bit down, of course, we mentioned this previously, July bid letting, 2 projects I want to point out, projects 9 and 10. The one at State Road 26 and McCarty Lane, a new traffic signal. And then also, State Road 225, truss and repair, reconstruction repair over the bridge over the Wabash River. Last 2 projects, October of 2024, Bridge 527, that's on Old US 231, and then Morehouse Road Phase 2. Quick in a nutshell of the status of what's coming up, shown on NDOT's 18-month letting list. So, I know there's been a lot of information. Any questions, comments, concerns? Pepperoni pizza, anybody? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that with us. So at this point, we will entertain any other business. We've reached the end of, I've gone through the items that we had planned. Is there any other business? Hearing none, we turn to the opportunity for citizen comments. Do we have any comments from those in attendance? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion and second for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
We have a second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. This meeting is adjourned. And I believe, one thing I should mention is that the next meeting is scheduled for October 18th.